Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 21st episode of the iDebate server. I'm the moderator for tonight's debate, American Evie, and the topic will be, should abortion be legal? Arguing in the affirmative is our very own pro-choice and pro-debate Lord of the Flies unit, and arguing in the negative is pro-life nationalist and fellow citizen of iDebates, Cryosphere. Each debater will be given a 5-minute opening argument. After each debater will get given their opening, they will then have 10 minutes to rebut their opponent. After the rebuttals, they will have 20 minutes of open dialogue, asking each other questions with as minimal interruptions as possible. After the dialogue, they will both offer a 5-minute closing. This will conclude the debate, at which point we will allow audience members to connect and ask questions to the debaters. The debaters will only answer questions that they are directly asked, so if you wish to hear from both people, make sure to address them both. The Q&A will last 30 minutes. After this 30 minutes has expired, the recording will stop, so any further discussion between the debaters or the audience will not be included in the YouTube upload. The rules are quite simple. The debaters will not be allowed to go over time during the opening, or they will be muted. The rebuttal, however, will be given 15 to 20 seconds overlap, since the debaters will likely be creating it as they go along. The open dialogue will be as free as possible, and while debaters are restricted from directly insulting each other at any point in the exchange, profanity will not be censored as long as it is not used gratuitously. If the conversation between the debaters becomes incoherent, I, the moderator, will intervene to bring the point back at hand. The closing will also last no longer than 5 minutes, or the debater will be muted. During each point in the debate, I will let the debaters know when they have 1 minute left, 30 seconds left, 10 seconds left, and if they're still talking after their time expires, they will be muted and we will move on to the next phase. The audience is allowed to utilize the debate text chat to fact-check the debaters and deliberate the topic among themselves. However, you will not be allowed to connect until the Q&A, at which point a queue will be initiated for you to join if you wish to ask a question. If both debaters agree and understand the rules, we'll go ahead and begin. Unit, since you're arguing in the affirmative of the motion this evening, you will be giving your opening argument first. You may start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Evie. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time is it for you, everybody. My name is Unit. I'm a socialist and semi-frequent debater here, and I'm arguing in the affirmative for tonight's motion. My argument is going to essentially be, not huge, but hopefully it'll be nice. A fetus up until around 21 to 25 weeks, usually 23 weeks, that's the 23-week marker is usually when it starts to possess these, doesn't really possess any form of consciousness that we think of consciousness. It is a life, it is a human life, but it's not really a person because it doesn't fit what we consider people. They aren't mutually exclusive. Humanity, like human, is a biological distinction, and it's a specific animal. Person is almost philosophical in its distinction. A person, as defined by Wikipedia, which has some issues, but they're usually pretty good in these regards. A person, plural, person or people or persons, is a being that has certain capacities or attributes such as reason, morality, consciousness, or self-consciousness, and being part of a culturally established form of social relations such as kinship, ownership of property, or legal responsibility. That doesn't really fit what we would consider a fetus. That doesn't really fit what a fetus is. They don't possess any morality whatsoever. I mean, and or either way, legal responsibility, because we aren't charging fetuses with manslaughter because they killed their mothers when giving birth, right? That we aren't doing that because a fetus isn't capable of having legal responsibility or moral responsibility. It doesn't have any consciousness at all, except for a consciousness that is less than what you would consider a pig to have consciousness. And I know that's not really an insult, pig's a very smart animal. And it's not really part of a culturally established form of social relations at all, due to its complete lack of experience in the world and immersion in culture. That's the pro-choice part of this, and my other argument would probably be abortion rates don't really lower when it's outlawed, so even people who are pro-life should probably want to keep abortion legal, just de-incentivize it. Thank you for your time, and I see the rest of my time to the open dialogue.
Alrighty, and that's going to be 2.5 minutes. Cryosphere, you can start whenever you're ready.
All right. So, my name is Cryosphere, and this is probably the first type of debate I've ever done. So I didn't really have much prepared. I've been camping, but my main argument is essentially that a fetus is a human life, and it has, despite it not being an actual person and not being breathing, well, not breathing in the sense that we would consider it on its own. It necessitates the need of a mother, but in general, a fetus, has all the defining qualities of a person, and it is a living, breathing creature. But not only that, I think it's really just more my main argument about it. What really got me into the idea about pro life is about generally the idea of having the responsibility to, whenever after you're having sex, you know that there is still a chance that you'll have a child, and that knowing that responsibility at least keeps people in check in most cases, and understanding that, if people don't have responsibility at all, society just deteriorates. And in general, that's probably the greatest responsibility of being a parent, of raising a child, and understanding that if you do commit the act in which facilitates the creation of a human life, that you need to take responsibility for that human life, and you need to, and you don't need to just throw it away because of your personal convenience, or you deny a human being of life because you think that they'll have a terrible life, or impoverished, or such and such. So, do I have to kind of the opening arguments early? If that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll move that time over to the open dialogue.
All right.
So
cool.
now, Unit, you're going to be up for your 10-minute rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. That was good, but the philosophical platitude is great and all, but it's not real. There are people who are bad parents. Having responsibility thrust onto you when you're not ready for it isn't a good thing, and generally for most people doesn't make them responsible human beings. It just shows you how irresponsible they are. When you give somebody, when you put them in charge of a human life, especially one that would be, developed, and other than just a small little shrimp thing that you could literally flick and would die instantly. If you give them a fully developed human life, or one that's actually developed to the point of birth, and they're an irresponsible person, they aren't suddenly going to go through a rom-com movie montage transformation where they become a great human being and parent. They're going to get overwhelmed, drop out of school, lose all their jobs, go on welfare, and start doing heroin. No, that might not be true for everyone, because otherwise we'd probably have a pretty big heroin epidemic. But we don't, of course. But still, people who are irresponsible, have responsibility thrust onto them, generally don't react well. Adoption is one answer, but we already have so many children in the adoption system. It's flooding that already flooded system, which can be horrible to be bounced around in your whole life, and that's a sad fate for many, many kids. Flooding that adoption system is a bad idea. And guess what? When you outlaw abortion, you're gonna flood that adoption system even more, because unintended pregnancies rise 30%, but abortion rates stay relatively the same. You're gonna have more kids. It's I can provide my source. I will put it in library chat.
All right. So, do you just have 10 minutes to speak, or can I?
Yeah, this is my 10 minutes. This is my 10 minutes.
All right. Very cool. I'm just wondering why you paused.
Initially, thinking of what you said initially. I know there's the moral thing. Oh, you said that they do possess the defining qualities of personhood. No, they don't. I think I at least what's the word? I'm looking for the word. I was looking for a better word, but I guess there am I think I sufficiently showed that a fetus doesn't really possess the qualities of personhood as it's defined, or being a person. It doesn't have those defining characteristics, and I don't know why you say they would. Well, also, in like two sentences earlier, saying they may not be a person, but they're a human life. I'll concede my time to the open dialogue because I ain't got much more to say.
All right, and you can start with your 10 minutes now. Oh, I did not unserver mute you, so 1 second.
All right.
And I'm resetting the timer.
So
There you
to
go.
address the first thing, I believe he said about a person not becoming irresponsible. A person who is irresponsible suddenly taking responsibility. My whole point with that is not that they're being thrust upon that responsibility; is that they'll think twice before they do it. It's essentially them thinking twice, and maybe they won't. But there's no evidence to suggest that that people don't already do that. Tons of people who you may consider to be irresponsible still have children. It's not really a good way to measure it by how irresponsible a person may be, or how that should prevent them from having children in that case. And what I'm saying is that they shouldn't think about doing that. Is not only is it a human life, but it also means that they'll just do things as it necessitates it. So, let's say they have school, or they have like a potential career, and that itself kind of implies that they have to be responsible in some capacity. But like, judging with the idea that they're just completely irresponsible, yet they have like all these career options, they should probably put them up for adoption. I know you said the thing about it being flooded, but to some extent, some states allow abortion? I forgot to check. Can someone put in the chat while I'm saying this afterwards? But the states that allow it, are they flooded the same way as other states would that don't allow it? And you said earlier, not banning it will just stay the same. So I don't know how allowing it will even prevent it. What was the second half of his argument? Can you remind me, Evie? The second half was, I remember it now. It was about how it's the philosophical part. Well, what I mean by defining characteristic is that I'm mainly referring to the idea that some people consider a parasite, like person, and I know you didn't say that yourself, but considering what a parasite is, that's basically like most of the time it's a different species than the host. A baby is the same species as the mother, and doesn't really take away from the mother in the sense that it's parasitical. It's not as it's parasite. It's more of like it needs it. It needs the mother to survive. A parasite can jump from host to host. A baby cannot survive outside the mother. But whenever you look at most abortions, most of the time they're like late stage, and they usually have to tear apart the baby itself. And it has like legs, it has like arms, it has that. And in general, it's still a breathing thing. It's not, and it's still like the same species as a human. So for the most part, except for like the philosophical bounds, we can judge it as a actual biological human. And I know that sounds somewhat incoherent, but I'm just speaking from what I remember. I'm not very good at like spit, but I think I'm going to end this part here and open forum.
Alrighty, so now we're moving on to open dialogue, and you guys have 35 minutes.
Okay, so big one, right?
Mhm.
Gosh, you just went on like a 2-minute rant about like arguments I never made. For the
I
people who
did. I apologize if I did. I was going off of memory.
I don't think, for many reasons, I don't think a fetus is a parasite.
Oh no, I was referring. I'm sorry about that. I was referring to what I mentioned whenever I said that, as the characteristics of a person. I'm saying it's the same species as a mother. So I'm sorry if I made look like you were saying that. I tried to make sure I did.
That's future reference. It's not really a good tactic. There was also that really weird appeal to emotion in the end there about how like the process of killing a baby is gruesome. Yeah, killing things is usually pretty nasty.
Well, yeah, I was
especially
saying,
because you can't just rip it out the vaginal canal, and especially when it's not even dilated. You can't do that. That would be horrible. It'd be even worse than the way you describe it. Yeah, it's like it's pretty fucked up. Like third trimester abortions, but I'm not going to sit here and advocate for recreational third trimester abortions. In fact, I say the line is 23 weeks, due to the start of rudimentary consciousness around 23 weeks for most babies. Now, the reason I have a line there is not because the 23 weeks is good for everyone, but there needs to be a line. So might as well have it there.
all right. Well, most of the time, I think as early as 2 weeks, the baby starts developing like nerves and can feel pain itself.
Yeah, and
Well, I'm just saying, if it starts developing systems in which is similar to a human, and it not only that, it develops systems in which it can feel pain.
A pig has similar systems to a human. A pig can feel pain. I don't feel bad about killing those fuckers and eating them. I mean, they're smart as hell. They're smarter than dogs and cats. They're probably more intelligent than like a newborn baby.
It's like, what would a baby be
I still eat those
considered?
fuckers.
If you don't consider it to be human, I don't know, what would you consider?
No, I already said I consider it to be human because human is a biological distinction. I don't consider it to be a person. And ergo, I don't really think its life matters.
You don't think its lives matters? The life of an embryo matters. It's not really a person per se.
Yeah, not per se. It's not a person.
Well, I wouldn't really consider it that, because it not only doesn't have not only is it something that is living and breathing.
Living and breathing.
I'm sorry. I'm getting
life, like living and breathing.
Sorry,
it isn't something that's hard to achieve. For like living beings.
Well, yeah, it's a living, breathing human.
It's not difficult. It's like, I mean, most creatures live and breathe. Well, every creature lives, but most live and breathe. Well, not most. Go by sheer numbers, tiny ones, but bacteria and such. But most complex creatures, live and breathe. Okay.
I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to collect my thoughts for a minute, so I could say something that isn't just stupid.
It's not a person. Like as I said earlier, and I exhibited it.
Well,
it doesn't really have what we consider personhood. It doesn't. It's not a person. It doesn't have morality. Like if.
Well,
I mean,
it isn't capable of that. It doesn't. Outside.
Have you ever been around a baby? Those fuckers do not have any sense of morality. You think their fetus versions do?
Well, go off topic.
Until around 2 or 3 years, it's my personal theory that a baby will kill you because it's funny. Babies love laughing at people who are hurting.
They don't even really understand what is going on around them most of the time, and then most of the time they feel
even from birth, even well after birth, babies don't have some things we would consider necessary to personhood. And I'm not going to go around like punting, newborn babies. I already said the line for me is 23 weeks. But if a newborn baby doesn't exhibit some of those things, how can its fetus version?
So like what are you trying to get at here? Are you trying to get at that you have to have like a moral code, or you have to have moral code? You have to have these other things in order to be considered a human life.
Moral code? No, but you need to.
Like I mean,
You
things
show that
like
you can. You need to show you can understand or at least exhibit morality, as in you can make You can make decisions based on morality. I've never seen a fetus to choose whether or not to take nutrients from its mother when she really needs it. Actually, okay, that's a bad example because there is a specific organ that regulates the amount of nutrients going to the baby, and that's why I don't think it's a parasite. But forget that. Dumb point.
Well, going back to what you said about baby having no morality, there's some studies that have shown that. It's not like the most in-depth thing, but there was like this one specifically where the baby was like shown a puppet show, and they made like one person really like calm and soft, and the other puppet kind of just like really mean and aggressive, and the baby would always often go with the puppet that was like that was more associated with something that's more calm and soft. So I don't really think
that's not like a moral decision, right? Like the baby isn't deciding.
Baby can't really make decisions at all. That's why it needs
exactly
family.
Exactly. Like if a baby, a born baby that's been developing for quite some time, can't make moral decision, one of the core things to personhood, why does a fetus have that ability? How is a fetus exhibiting personhood?
I don't think that's biologically what makes them a person. I'm
but
saying,
we're not talking about biology, right? Biology doesn't give a shit. In biology, we're just slightly more intelligent apes that are probably going to go extinct because of our own actions one day.
that's more like a philosophical kind of nihilist. I'm not gonna like ape.
No, you want to talk biology.
I'm saying like what is like not only is it biologically a human, it's like metaphysically human because
biologically human. Of course it is. No one ever denied that. I've
living, and
I've affirmed that multiple times. It's a life. It's a pig. Again, a pig is a life too. I eat those fuckers.
Yeah, but you don't consider a fetus a pig.
You're right. I don't. I consider it less worth. I consider it worth less than a pig.
It's still a developing baby. It's still
developing, not developed. It's not a person yet.
So, but I'm really trying to confuse.
Well, I'll try to simplify it by streamlining the argument.
I was just looking in the chats. Can we make this open dialogue conversation and not an argument? Okay, if that's what you guys want us to do, that's fine. But I just wanted to clarify.
Hey! Don't talk to chat.
That's one of the mods, I believe.
Well,
and I'm kind of.
I can streamline the argument. I can streamline the argument for you, right? Right? I don't believe a fetus is a person. And in regards to human life, I only believe people are actually worth anything. To me, a fetus isn't worth anything because it's not a purpose. It's not a person.
Because it's still living and it's still like a human being.
And why? Why is that important? Why does that matter? Again, a pig is smarter than them. A pig can exhibit what is closer to morality than this.
Because a pig has been developed and it's living.
Yeah, that makes it worthwhile.
What doesn't make a fetus worthwhile?
What doesn't make a fetus worthwhile? It's not a person.
Then why do people care so much about them? Why is it?
Because people are dumb and have generally been brainwashed by pro-life advocacy. But no. You know what? I'm gonna take that back. I'm gonna take that back. That was like an edgy platitude. Gosh. Oh my gosh! I accidentally just left the VC. I'm sorry. That was like a weird edgy platitude I just did. Sorry.
Well, yeah, but it's still like, why do people consider it so important? Why do they have parties and rituals based off of childbearing? Because it is the most innocent form of life, and is whenever life begins.
I don't know. I have to ask them. People celebrate dumb shit all the time. I mean, like, as a society, one of the most popular things, is to celebrate
Because,
like
well,
the
that's
day the anniversary, the day you were born.
well, what animal does not protect their children? What species does not
That's a biological imperative to protect your children to continue the
because
survival of
it's
your
your
species.
children.
We don't need to do that to continue the survival of our species. We're above that.
We're not above like treating our children well. We're not above
Treating our children, our children. It's a fetus, not a person. It's worthless.
It's still breathing.
It's
Not
worthless.
worthless. It's developing into a person.
Breath does not.
Let me tell you
Breath
this.
does not give something inherent
Let
worth.
me give it like
Breath
this.
does not give
It's
something
like,
worth. Simply like inhaling oxygen that gives something worth.
do you believe that all right, so let me get this example. Whenever a person is born, essentially what abortion is the mother choosing whether or not this child will live or die. Essentially, it is essentially the mother taking it, or even maybe the father pushes it upon her because it's inconvenient to him.
Doesn't matter.
It is essentially her saying, "Do I want this child to live or die? Not does the child want to live." It's the child has no say because as you said, it can't talk, it can't communicate, it has no morality. But essentially, what the mother is doing is playing judge, jury, executioner of whether or not this child can live or die. It's not an appeal to emotion. It's because it's simply saying that people should have the determination to live or die. They should not. Their mother should not choose whether they should live or die or not.
Why not?
Because it's not the mother's to choose. And if the mother does force it upon the child, it's called murder.
No, it's not. Murder is a legal term.
I said if the mother forces death upon the child, that is murder.
A child, sure, not a fetus.
That's still going to develop into a human being. It's not. It doesn't make it any different. Your mother can choose to abort. It could have chose to abort you, and you would have no say at all. You wouldn't be.
You're damn right. And I wouldn't care. You know why? Because I wasn't conscious, and I didn't have an identity, and I wasn't a person yet. And it wouldn't matter.
But that's just really getting into the more materialistic, and even then, it doesn't really make much sense to just have one person decide the life of another person. I wouldn't have wanted to be aborted because I would have liked
people
to
decide the life of other people all the time. It's been one of our defining characteristics, and one of the things that puts us above the other animals.
Yeah, but most of the time we consider it a crime for another person to choose to enforce death upon another person.
What about war? War is a fully legal procedure. In fact, war even has rules to make it less bad.
It's a lot more complex than
It's a lot more complex.
Yeah, because that's born from conflict, and most people would consider war like a moral evil because it enforces death upon millions of people.
But it's fully legal, and there we see moral reasons for war.
Maybe there is a legality of war. It's not. We wouldn't consider it moral. You wouldn't, because something is legal does not make it moral. That's why most people pull the lever for politicians who say they want to be against war, because you don't want your son to die. You don't want other people to die. And I don't really think that's a good comparison between the two.
I think it is a good comparison because it shows that humans frequently, sometimes just for fun, decide the lives of others. Whether or not they continue, whether or not they go well, whether or not they're allowed to reproduce. We interact with each other. One of the ways we rose out of sub-Saharan Africa was our ability to interact with each other. Deciding something for somebody else is an interaction. And again, it doesn't matter because fetuses aren't people.
you're still deciding if the life of a human being should be continued or just stopped entirely. That's essential.
Yeah, I am.
Essentially what an abortion is. That's what
Yeah, I am.
Most people would consider something to that level to be immoral. So my entire point is, why do we consider it different for a fetus who is developing into a human being, who is living, and who is breathing? Why should we determine that as morally ambiguous, whereas murder, it's very clear. We know that murder is wrong. We know that
because you're killing somebody who has a family that loves him, and you're killing somebody like if you just murder someone out on the street, you're killing a random person, right? Fetuses aren't people. They don't possess morality.
Yeah,
they don't
they're
have.
They're going to be developed into a person. They're
going to develop into a person.
They'd even have the ability to defend themselves. How can you determine that that should be scraped? Sorry, probably.
It's not a person. That's my whole argument. I would like you to address the person. Do you believe the fetus is or is not a person?
I mean, a person, I believe it's a human, but
so you don't believe it's a person.
More of a
So
it's more of a different connotative meaning, I say.
If they're not a person, then why does their life matter? Because they're the same species as us?
Why do we have animals? All right, so I'm going to go onto the level of let's say a fetus is the equivalent, let's say the metaphysical equivalent of a pig, essentially, because that's what you've been saying this entire time. Am I incorrect on that assumption?
No, I'm saying a pig is above a early fetus.
All right, so value. I'm going to continue. Well, so why is it above?
It's developed and it has a use.
Well, a baby is going to develop into a person. That person is, maybe they don't have much use, maybe they do. It's like, why are you going to determine for them if they can live or die?
So it's a gamble in an already overpopulated world.
Yeah. Most of the time, overpopulated.
I don't want to kill developed fetuses, right? I don't want to kill fetuses above 23 weeks old because I would consider that developed enough to have at least a semblance of personhood.
Thanks, Himbo.
I used the Wikipedia definition. It's there's a lot of definitions.
I think you're trying to.
That one's far longer.
Trying to go for the more metaphysical, even though you're basing it more off of a physical argument. That going back to what you said earlier, is that you're trying to play both, and you essentially by saying, well, it doesn't have morality, it doesn't have all these ideas, and it doesn't have these things similar to a person, while also saying, well, if it dies, it doesn't know that it even existed. And you can't really do that, I'd say. You can't really try to appeal to both at the same time with that kind of argument.
I think either you're misunderstanding or this is a really weird way of framing it. I can, say that a baby isn't a person because it doesn't possess what we think of necessary as personhood, right? And I can also say that a pig has more value because a pig is developed. And a pig has a use.
Well, even then, we still have, we still develop a lot of things in order to protect animals, to protect their, their well-being, even though we don't really consider them equals. And I know you're saying it's below a pig, but why is that? It's still going to develop into a person. It's like a
pig. Like a full fat, fully grown pig.
If
distributed effectively, can feed multiple people, right? And the pig, having a higher intelligence than many dogs and cats, along with a degree of emotional intelligence, from what I've heard, is useful as a pet as well if you have one. Plus, they're just really, really cute, and we give them some sort of weird lack of actual value, but still has value, right?
Value is really just determined by people. It's very like I'm not very into the subjective crowd, but value is probably the most subjective thing.
I'm talking about like values and it has a use. A fetus doesn't have any use. It's not a
Well,
person.
it's going to develop into a person, and a person.
Yeah, it's going to. It's going to. I'm talking about a fetus. Not what a fetus will be or might be.
It will be. If it isn't a person now, it will eventually be a person.
Yeah,
and
like
even then, I reject that argument because.
But it might be the
still a living creature.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was a fetus once. Like I'm not sitting out here making like a moral argument if we should kill babies if they're like Jeffrey Dahmer, if they're like a psychopath or something.
Can't really tell them that. I'm gonna look at Timbo's citation right quick for the Wikipedia thing you keep bringing up. It is a being that.
I mean, I posted it a few times.
And being part of a culturally established from social relationships such as kinship, ownership, property, or legal responsibility.
Yep.
The defining features of person.
There you go.
Then isn't kinship one of those? If we're going by, let's say this more metaphysical argument of, a person philosophically is something that you could attribute reason and morality to, but also kinship. And it's like you could apply, at the very least, apply kinship to a fetus. You're related to a fetus that is developing into a human. And anyways, why does it cut off? Like why do you cut it off at such an arbitrary point of like, well, at this form of abortion, it just gets cut off, and it's now.
You mean the 23-week line? I don't think it necessarily is a person. Development is different for everyone. But again, as I said earlier, the reason I draw a line is because there needs to be a line. Otherwise, there would be no line up until the very moment it's born. And to be honest, while my argument could be absolutely used for a third trimester baby, I myself would never be comfortable aborting a third trimester baby unless it's saving someone's life. In my opinion, that's too developed.
Why is that? How is that? Why is that too developed? But not like at early stages. At early stages, you can do it, but not at later stages.
Because
does it suddenly become?
It's starting to exhibit what's necessary for person, like consciousness specifically, rudimentary consciousness.
Well, that's only one point. It doesn't. I mean,
if you want to argue with me about whether or not we should have second or third trimester abortions, we can go with that. And you can change my mind. I can go to third trimester abortions. Or do you want to get back on like the actual whether or not abortion should be?
Yeah, that's the main. It's.
Speaking on that, even pro-lifers should really agree with the legality of abortion. Like the source I put in earlier, if you'll read it, states that unintended pregnancy and abortion rates between broadly legal and prohibited altogether, there is 58 per 100. It says. I'm not actually sure per 100 what, but it's maybe not sure. I have to reach the whole methodology and tell you. But when abortion is prohibited altogether, the abortion rate is the same as when it's broadly legal. It only decreases when it's regulated abortion, only allowed to preserve health or save a woman's life. But the unintended pregnancy rates skyrocket higher than any of that, despite the abortion rate staying relatively the same.
So it should be, a lot. What is really the methodology? Because that doesn't really make sense to me. If it's prohibited altogether, how could they still have the same amount of abortion? It's like.
Well, there's a little trick you can do with a coat hanger.
Yeah, not only is that a lot less safe.
Yeah, of course it's less safe.
It doesn't
stop the abortion. Like, people don't go, this is safe. No, they get the fucking abortion because they're scared kids.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Is that they should be scared of the idea that they're going to form a human life and they're going to have to deal with that responsibility. And it's like that should stop them at the point at which they get into
But
the
it
bed.
doesn't, because they're teenagers and young adults, and teenagers and young adults don't think rationally. Or they can.
So children should stop
For people
because
who are asking for sauce, it's already in the library.
the library.
Yeah, the library channel. I would have
Yeah,
put it in
that
no
was-
mic, but we've been.
Abortion world.
Library for people who are confused. It's a channel in the top of the podium section of channels. Yeah, there you go.
Number per 1,000 women. Per women. Does it separate Russia? I'm just curious. On the map,
Separate Russia from what?
like from just Europe in general, because Russia has like a way higher abortion rate than most of Europe.
Let me pull up the source again because I accidentally closed out. Europe and Northern America. So no, it doesn't separate Russia.
Hmm.
Personally, I do think they should have separated Russia and been its own entity, along with Eastern Europe, but it is what it is.
So, abortion in Europe. Europe's abortion law.
Also, with abortion being legal, it decreases, and unintended pregnancy rates have declined over the last 30 years. Like, abortion rates are decreasing.
Be thought partially because of that is because people are having less sex in general.
People
And,
haven't suddenly stopped fucking, dude.
They have been having less sex. In
Nothing
general.
changed. Nothing changed in the teen mind from the 90s to here.
A lot has changed. In general, kids specifically, they're
They're a little less racist now. They're a little less homophobic, a little more accepting of promiscuity. They didn't stop fucking, dude.
I'm not saying they did. I'm saying that for the most part, people having sex, and specifically the younger generations, has decreased.
Sure.
And that's where probably most of the.
You got a sauce on that, or is that like a personal anecdote?
Probably get it. I don't have it directly on.
Because I get the feeling
If someone would be free, put that in the chat. But anyways, do we eventually get to the part? Are we at the part where the people can just talk to us?
Not yet. Q&A's not here yet. Still got to go through the rest of the
There's
open dialogue.
7 minutes of the open dialogue left.
Okay.
You got anything else to say?
Well, really, I'm just trying to gauge what you're trying to say. Trying to say, legality. The whole point of legality is not that, majority of the time it's mostly based off of moral ground. And you do have somewhat of a point, even though I'm examining it right now. Maybe you are correct about it not changing at all. For me personally, that doesn't seem very logical, considering that if it's not legal and if it's enforced, if that illegality is enforced. So yeah. if that illegality is enforced, I don't see why women would intentionally put themselves in the case of having a coat hanger abortion in which they're
They're fucking scared.
I wouldn't.
And
Why would they be
find
so
that they
scared
don't.
as to not only possibly end their life, but also
Because
commit
fear makes
illegal-
people do stupid things.
That seems like a very convenient thing. I don't mean to be rude with that, but that seems very convenient.
The smartest thing would probably be to, if possible, save up for like a plane ticket or possibly what's the word? Reach out to like a local charity or maybe like a local foreign branch of Planned Parenthood and get a safe abortion somewhere.
Why should
It
we
might
allow?
be like
Why should we allow that? Whenever it's
because-
like it's a human being.
because it's not a person.
Again, that goes back on like the falling back on the person argument when it comes to illegality.
Yeah, because it's like the most important.
It's essentially like the argument of the murder is illegal in majority of countries, but
Murder is a legal term. It's a legal term. Murder is not just killing someone. Murder is an unjust, illegal killing.
Continuing on what I said, the argument I was giving, we still have that as illegal because we consider it taking a person's life unjustly. But the murder rates are still extremely high. Murder in some countries or even specific areas. So I don't see how that nulls the idea that we shouldn't illegalize abortion. Given everything you said, given that let's say that abortion rates do not decrease if we make it illegal, it's still on the basis of this is an immoral thing that we shouldn't allow. It's on that basis. We have a lot of laws like going back to murder. Murder rates are still substantially high. No matter how illegal we make it, we could make it, death penalty. I bet you there would still be some crazy people who would still murder.
What's your point?
The whole point is that I'm saying that even if what you're saying is true about abortion, specifically that there'll be the same amount or even more abortions. Well, you may have not said more. Get my point. Is essentially that if they stay the same, that there should be really a purpose for illegalizing it. I'm saying that it's because it's an immoral thing that we should not be allowing. That it should be legalized.
You mean criminalized, but
for criminal.
But why is it immoral? Because it's human? Because it's one of our species? I don't see the point in that.
It's a human person that we're basically
No,
determining.
it's not a person.
Like human being. It's a human being that we are ending the life of without even asking them, without letting them determine it for themselves.
When you say human,
it's unjust.
you're equating especially like the appeals to emotion you've gone through. When you say human, I feel like you're equating like a fetus to a fully grown human, which is why I made the person distinction. Because they're not the same.
I'm not saying that they're exactly the same. I'm saying that they're still one of us. They're still
there are species. There are 7.6 billion of us now, maybe even more. Nothing special about
even then. You say that I'm doing a lot of appeals to emotion, but then you're talking about third trimester. That's like the arbitrary line where it's all of a sudden
because they're starting to exhibit consciousness. That's like the big thing.
That's one thing. That's one thing out of many of what you said. So by that same logic, using the same Wikipedia article, I could say that because it has kinship to the mother and the father, and all the ancestors beyond, that it makes it a person.
From the definition, like simply being related to someone, isn't exactly personhood, right? But a fetus that is in its
that
third
means you're-
trimester,
that
a
means
fetus that
you're-
is in its third trimester experiences consciousness and to a degree self-consciousness. It has memory. It can remember things that it has
Does it have
experienced
morals?
inside the womb. Morality? No, but then again, like a 2-year-old doesn't have morality. Are we punting 2-year-olds? Oh, maybe not 2-year-olds.
Do
More like,
have
more like a 6-month-old.
morality to an extent.
Like a
I
6-month-old.
went over that argument
That's
about
any morality.
they're not just completely immoral. They're not just complete psychopaths. And most of the
I
time,
disagree.
if they laugh, if they gave your example, if they laugh while you kill someone, that makes that most of the time, even if that does happen, which I wouldn't say that a baby
It
here
really
is
is exaggerated.
they're
The fact that babies really don't possess any empathy, especially from like a super young age, they don't possess that much empathy.
Why would they not possess empathy?
Not developed. I'm gonna be honest, that whole empathy.
Would they
thing-
not feel? Would they
it's
not
kind of a
feel
joke, it's
sad
kind of
if
like-
it's all?
It was like an exaggeration-y joke, but a fetus isn't really developed enough to have morality. It's not developed like a early fetus is not developed enough to have morality. It's not developed enough to have consciousness or self-consciousness. It doesn't have any like cultural responsibilities or like legal responsibilities. It doesn't exhibit things that most people consider required for personhood.
That doesn't mean it's not. It's not absolutely not human at all. We still consider it more.
Yeah,
like
it's still a human.
You have
It's
1
still
minute
a
left.
human, but
Yeah, we
one
have
of our
1 minute.
species means literally jack shit. Oh no, they share some DNA with us. We share like what 70% DNA with a banana. It doesn't mean that much.
that we literally share 99% of our DNA with the baby, with the fetus.
Yeah, and that's my point.
Like-
And it's like there's DNA similarities. Oh no, I can't believe we're getting rid of this mammal.
30 seconds.
This completely undeveloped mammal. Oh well. Well, as we're going in our closings, it's a good conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was kind of nervous.
It's okay. I understand you. I understand why you weren't as well prepared as you could have been. You were like doing shit that whole weekend. Are we going
10
to closings
seconds.
here? There you go.
And we're going to move right into closings. Okay, and Unit, you are arguing the affirmative, so you go first.
Okay. I actually had a decent time. I've this is my third debate here. My first debate was a decent time, the same way League of Legends is a decent time. My second debate was a shit show. Such a shit show wasn't even recorded. It's probably the best of them so far. Was civil and was nice, but apart from that, I feel like I won because I exhibited that a fetus doesn't really have personhood, although that could be disputed. And I hope everybody has a good night. Not much to say.
All right, can I?
Yeah, you can go.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
All right, I thought this was just pretty fun event to do. As you can tell, I don't have like the most facts on hand. Well, I could have gone into more, even with different arguments. This one caught me a little bit more off guard because it has a lot more to do with philosophical nature rather than just like a more like baseline philosophical, if that makes sense. But I think I did well for the most part, except for the rebuttal line because I kind of went off the topic, but and kind of misrepresented in many ways because I forgot. But I think if not, I'm not to kiss you know what, but I think I did pretty well. Kept asserting myself. For a person, I'm personally not the most kind of spitbally person. Even during presentations for school, I often get stuck on certain things. Think about it, but I think I did really well here, and I had a lot. Thank you. Conclusion is over, by the way.
Alrighty, that concludes the debate, and we're going to move into the 30-minute time for questions. Esther is popping up the queue. It's going to mute everyone. Okay, and I'm going to unmute you guys. There we go. And there we go. And we're going to start the queue. So at this point, anybody that wants to join the queue, if you have any types of questions, you can click the little check mark reaction to that message, and it'll put you in a queue and unmute you when it's time for your question to be asked. Joe has a question. Is that what's going on? Oh, okay. I think the okay, so Joe 22. Did it mute? It did not unmute you. I will unmute you. You have a question. Go ahead.
I have a question for Cryosphere and Hollow. I mean not Hollow Unit. Sorry. But I would like to ask both of them if they think if they are. Well, I would like to ask if Cryosphere is vegetarian, and I would like to ask both of them if they think it is consistent to value human life and not animal life.
We just unmuted for this, right?
What was your last question? If it's inconsistent to value human life but not animal life, or
Yeah, since Cryosphere is a pro-lifer, I would like to know if he's vegetarian, and I would like to know if both of you think, like, if like, I would like to know both of your perspectives on if you think it's consistent. I mean, if you're inconsistent for valuing human life but not animal life.
well,
You want to go
I'm
first?
not gonna say I don't really give a shit about animals, right? You know, I'm gonna let Crosshair answer your first question.
All right, it's just me. You answer me.
Yeah,
and
he
answer
wants
first.
to know if you're a vegetarian.
All right, no, I am not. I'm quite literally almost the opposite. But I think that's kind of a different level because for the most part, I believe animals are meant to be eaten, and I believe in humane slaughter. We have like procedures for them, and I don't really consider them on the level of people. I used to be like really, kind of, what would be the word for this? Kind of, quote unquote human supremacist about it. I didn't like animals at all used to, but I'm fine with them now. I believe they do have a purpose, but I don't really think they're on the same level as something like a fetus. And I don't believe that they shouldn't. They should be treated. They should be abused in the same way I consider that killing a unborn child is essentially abuse to me. If that makes any sense, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like, don't you think like
Okay.
like just how you think that it can be inhumane to that like unit thinks that it's okay to kill an unborn baby? Like somebody might think that it's gruesome and horrible that you support killing animals, and like somebody might see that as the same exact thing.
Well, Joe, my answer for your question, by the way, probably be, I'm not gonna sit here and say I don't give a shit about animals, right? Like, I like bacon, right? I'm not gonna stop eating bacon, because animals are worth something, but I'm also not going to sit here and support completely inhumane farming conditions and like pumping them full of antibiotics and having generally immoral practices, right? Like the mass amount of food waste. I don't want to waste an animal's life, but I'm also not going to just stop eating bacon, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So like you value their life, but you want it. Like you also like value like the nutritional value that they
I
offer
value
too, I
bacon.
guess. Huh?
I value bacon and where the bacon comes from.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Are there anyone else with anybody other questions? Let's see. I have to find them. All right. With no other questions, I'm gonna call it here. This has been great. Thank you guys, both Unit and Cryosphere, for your participation, and thank everyone that came here to listen for your support. And we'll continue the rest of this talk off screen.